All right. So as Andrew summarized, the agenda of this session is to explore what Alibaba Cloud storage options are, and I'll go through the different categories and probably delve into details of some of them. So just to start, my name is Rohit Gupta, and I work as a solution architect with Alibaba Cloud in the ANZ region. I'm based out of Melbourne. So before I jump into the main agenda, I just wanted to spend a few minutes on providing an overview of what Alibaba Cloud is, and the reason it is important to just spend few minutes here is because we are talking about data storage. So it's important to understand how we actually deal with your data. So if you look at this slide, so I won't spend too much time on that. So the key points are the regions. We have 19 regions, which includes Sydney as one of the regions, and we have around 52 availability zones, which includes 2 AZs in Sydney. We have 200 plus cloud solutions, which includes a lot of storage solutions and data processing, data storage solutions. Going beyond that, we have global connectivity solutions, and we, as I said, we have presence across the world, which includes, of course, ANZ region, Sydney. We have two data centers, and when I say global connectivity, it also deals with the solutions catering to Go China, Go Asia solutions, cross-border solutions. So we have special, I would say, specific networking solutions to deal with those kind of issues, or if companies have those kind of looking for those kind of solutions. So in terms of global connectivity, again, I think in all those networking solutions you would have heard or you would hear in some upcoming sessions in this webinar series. We have a comprehensive product portfolio which deals from, supporting the businesses from infrastructure layer to the OS layer and the platform layer. So, today we are supporting not only Alibaba Group itself from the bottom-up layers, but businesses around the world. So, using our comprehensive product portfolio. And lastly, I also wanted to add that in terms of compliance, all our data centers are compliant. PCI DSS, HIPAA, GDPR, so all the major compliance certifications are there. So, which means your data is secure when it is. So, if you are in Sydney, your data stays in Sydney and is compliant to all the major certifications, all the major compliance authorities. All right. So now coming back to the main agenda of this session. So what I'm going to talk about is the storage options with Alibaba Cloud, and delve a bit more into details of the 3 main categories: block, object, and file storage. And I'll talk about what are the offerings what we have in terms of these storage categories. In terms of Alibaba Cloud storage portfolio, so I look at it as 3-phased portfolio. So if you look at this slide, to the extreme left side, it says cloud storage scenarios, or I would say it as mostly the hybrid cloud solutions or the data ingestion solutions, where you are going to bring your data into Alibaba Cloud. So what are the various what is our stack there, and what are the offerings we have in terms of the hybrid cloud solutions, or how we can help you bring your data into Alibaba Cloud. So for example, storage gateway. The storage gateway is a classical example where you can build your hybrid cloud solutions. You can have your backup and DR in using Alibaba Cloud, and storage gateway is that bridge which allows you to do that. There are other things like data transport, what we call as Lightning Queue, which is actually a solution for migrating your petabyte scale of data onto Alibaba Cloud, which is mainly like a device which is shipped to you, and you actually put your data onto that device, and that is then transported to Alibaba Cloud data centers. So these are the other backup, and then you can also look at the partner ecosystems. What we leverage our customers will leverage our partner ecosystems to bring their data onto Alibaba Cloud. So if you look at it, it is mostly like a hybrid cloud solutions using these different products or offerings you can build. Then the middle of the slide is the cloud storage, where we store your data. So what are the various options available? And that's the focus of this session. I just wanted to actually highlight the whole portfolio to you in this session, but in the subsequent slides coming up is what are these cloud storage options. I'll talk about some of these prominent ones. So, for example, storage is our cloud disk, OSS is our object storage, NAS, which is our file storage, and then there are others. Worth mentioning, table store is like a fully managed NoSQL database capable of fully managed. When I say fully managed, you don't have to worry about anything in terms of scaling it up, high availability. That's all managed by Alibaba Cloud. And log service is something like a real-time data ingestion, data acquisition, and data processing offering from Alibaba Cloud. Again, it is capable of managing or handling heaps of data. Prominent ones would be the object storage, block storage, and the file storage, what we are going to discuss in this session. And again, in interest of time, we won't go into the details of table store, log service for this session, because I understand the three key storage options are what I just mentioned. And then the extreme right of this slide, you see how we actually how we handle your data, or the data processing, data intelligence stack of products. So there are various offerings on that side, which is like image processing, video processing, function compute, which is a serverless platform, which I think you have heard in previous sessions in this webinar series. So there are various data processing and data handling options within this whole portfolio. So again, as I mentioned, the reason why I wanted to talk about this whole portfolio or this data journey is how we acquire or ingest your data, how we help you ingest your data into Alibaba Cloud, how we store your data, and how that data is handled once it is stored and once it is ready to be processed. So as I said, I picked three key categories on any cloud platform, which are three key categories, and same for Alibaba Cloud: block storage, object storage, and file storage, and what are the corresponding offerings from Alibaba Cloud. So block storage is what we have, what we call as cloud disk on Alibaba Cloud. Object storage is something like OSS, object storage service. File storage is our NAS, which is network attached storage. So these are three key categories or three offerings. I'm going to now, in the subsequent slides, I'm going to get into the details of these three categories. So block storage. So what is Alibaba Cloud block storage offering? It is, we call it cloud disk. So before I go into the details of what cloud disks are, I'll just quickly talk about what is the architecture of cloud disks, and I'll tell you why it is important to talk about architecture of cloud disks. So our cloud disk or our block storage is built on what we call as Alibaba Cloud DFS, distributed file system. And the way it works is when you store your files onto Alibaba Cloud disk, our cloud disk block storage, each file is divided into three chunks, and these three chunks of files are, because of this DFS, are stored across three different physical servers. So what it is giving you is inbuilt reliability and data durability. So each chunk has three redundant copies stored across three physical servers in the same data center, and internally all read, write, and delete operations are synchronized to all these three copies. So it is basically an asynchronous operation. So what means is when you're storing your file on the block storage, which is attached. So just to mention that block storage is something which is meant for your ECS instances, or your what ECS is, what our virtual servers are on Alibaba Cloud. So when you store your files on the block storage, each file is divided into chunks and stored across three physical servers. And the reason for doing that is data integrity and of course reliability. You have three copies, but at the same time, even if there was a hacker had to hack your ECS instance, your data is still spread across different chunks. So you have that security and reliability. In terms of the types of cloud disks, what we offer, what the block storage what we offer is, I would actually talk about the disk types in two different categories. One is performance category and the other is function category. So first, looking at the function category, there are two key. I mean, if you look at the diagram on this slide, the two rectangles specify system disk and data disk. These are two different function-based categories. So system disk is something which is attached to your ECS instance when you create that ECS instance. So it is only created at the time of instance creation. It lives as long as your instance lives, and it is basically a disk where you actually it is that part of your disk where you create your or when you set up your ECS instance, you create your OS and all those things. So that is where system disk comes into picture. And then the other category is data disk. As the name suggests, all your data, your applications or your systems use that data is stored on the data disk. So these are two function-based categories. And then when it comes to performance-based categories, both system disk and data disk can be created as ultra disk, SSD or SSD disk. So if you see this listing of performance categorization, I've mentioned four: ultra disk, SSD disk, which are generally available and in every region, in every site. There are two more I mentioned. One is ESSD, extreme SSD, and shared block storage. And you'll see asterisks along both of them. The reason is they're still in beta phase. They are not released globally yet. But it is important to mention what these disks are. So shared block storage. So I think shared block storage is something which is a unique offering what we are currently testing in beta. But the way it is unique is because so far no other cloud provider has an offering which is like a shared block storage. There are shared file storage offerings, but shared block storage offering so far no other cloud provider has been able to release or provide. And which means what a shared block storage means essentially is you can attach your block storage to multiple ECS instances, and this actually solves various business and technical problems. The prominent one, at least I've faced in my career so far, and I've seen customers asking for it, is how to build Oracle rack on a cloud. So because building an Oracle rack needs a shared block storage. There are workarounds to do that using shared file storage, but those are highly complex, or customers would try to refrain from doing those kind of juggling around the file storage. So shared block storage is actually kind of a unique offering, value proposition for us also. And the other one I would like to mention is ESSD, extreme SSD. It is kind of a level above what SSD, the performance what SSD provides. So again, it is still in a beta testing phase, but the other ones, the normal what we offer in every region and every AZ is the ultra disk and the SSD disks. And as SSD disks are well known, they are for high performance, and ultra disks from us are for medium kind of performances, where we are trying to solve problems which are not related to high performance IO, or the solution doesn't need high IOPS. So in terms of disk types, so as I said, performance and function based. And just to give you a summary of what cloud disks are. So as I said, ultra disk, SSD disk, and extreme SSD. So performance, as I said, ultra disks are low to medium kind of IOPS, and SSD is definitely high random IOPS. And when I say high random IOPS, it is up to 25K IOPS it can provide. And extreme SSD is something which can provide up to million IOPS, but again is still not available publicly. So it is meant for high IOPS RDMA kind of technologies, where you are trying to build, say, clusters for scientific projects, those deep learning projects. So that's where you would use eSSD disks. Size, in terms of size, the maximum limit of both ultra and SSD is up to 32 terabytes, and number of disks you can attach up to 250 disks, ultra disks as well as SSD disks. A couple of things I want to mention is snapshot. So both ultra disk, I mean, in fact, all disk types, you can take snapshots. Snapshots are basically something which you take, snapshot and images, I would say images are also something which you use to take your backups and use them as a template to create your further ECS instances. So snapshots are possible for all types of disks, and then encryption is possible. You can encrypt your cloud disk. And when I say encryption, your encryption means you encrypt your disk, you encrypt your data on that, you encrypt your backups taken from those cloud disks, and also you encrypt your snapshots. So everything what you do on those cloud disks would be encrypted. Pricing, so I mean, cloud disks are similar to ECS cloud disks are also the pricing model is pay as you go or subscription. Both are possible, but it follows what your ECS instance is. So if you're attaching your cloud disk to your ECS instance at the time of creation, it follows the ECS pricing model. But if you're creating a cloud disk separately, I mean, once you have provisioned ECS instance and you're creating a cloud disk, it follows your pay as you go model. So, and again, if you see this slide, I have not mentioned too many details on the extreme SSD disk type, and the reason being, again, this is still not publicly available. So, but as I said, I mean, it is capable of providing very high random IOPS and make very high throughput per disk. So I'll move on to the next storage type, which is actually very important part of our portfolio, storage portfolio, the object storage, which is the OSS, object storage service. So what OSS is, the basic concept of OSS, or basic features or basic concepts, what OSS comprises of is buckets, folders and files. So the way it works is you create your bucket in a region. So OSS is a regional product or feature. So you create your bucket, you can create folders to group your files, or you can directly upload your files into the bucket. So files are nothing like objects, so that's why it's object storage service. So you can create or dump your objects into buckets. You can have multiple buckets. It is highly reliable. When I say reliable, Alibaba Cloud guarantees 11 nines of durability. It is highly secure. When I say secure, so you can have access control, private, public read write. You can your buckets are accessible only via the access keys, which comprise of access key ID and access secure ID. So those kind of things. So they are highly secure. Your data is secure within OSS. There are various various scenarios which I'll also mention in subsequent slides. Like you can use OSS to host your static websites. You can use OSS for image processing. You can have cross-region replication with your OSS. There are various OSS utilities available. When I say utilities, those are something which help you ease your work. So, for example, OSS browser is like an explorer, UI explorer, where you can browse your buckets and objects inside that bucket. There is something called OSS util, where it is a command line utility where you can play around with your buckets, objects, and folders. So, and then you can also have the object lifecycle rules defined for all your objects in the buckets. When I say lifecycle rules, you can define rules that when you want that a particular object or set of objects or folders to be deleted, archived. Those kind of rules, lifecycle rules, can be defined. And when it comes to OSS, there are three different classes, and next slide I'll talk about those three different storage classes also. One is standard, infrequent access, and the archive. So as the name suggests, standard is something which is you can access anytime. Infrequent access is something which there are limitations attached to each storage class, but infrequent access is something which you don't access frequently. You need probably once in a week or once in a month kind of access. Archive is actually a cold storage where you want to archive your data for any reason, for compliance reasons, or you want to maintain, say, 7 years or 5 years of your data, and you dump it to your archive storage. So different storage classes available. And OSS definitely it integrates with all your all other Alibaba Cloud products, and like ECS and NAS and RAM, which is resource access management product from the security product from Alibaba Cloud. So it integrates with all major Alibaba Cloud products. So as I said, I mean, there are 3 different storage classes: standard, infrequent access, and archive. So standard is which is frequently accessed, infrequent access is long-term storage but not very frequently accessed, and archive is definitely a cold storage, you rarely access that. So all 3 are designed for 11.9 durability. 99.9% availability is guaranteed. So I am not going to through each line item, but the key things I want to highlight is, so when you are using standard storage class, there is no minimum duration to store your data. But infrequent access, you need to store at least for 30 days, or you have to, I mean, if you retrieve or you extract your data before 30 days, of course you'll have to pay some fee for that. And then archive is your minimum storage is for 60 days, so you have to store for 60 days. I mean, again, you have to choose your storage class wisely. What is your actual use case. The retrieval fee, as I said, I mean, there is a retrieval fee attached to your infrequent access storage class and archive storage class, but there is no retrieval fee for standard storage class. And again, the reason for having that retrieval fee for infrequent access and archive storage class is because it is not meant for retrieving frequently. It is meant for infrequent access or cold storage. So you are not intending to actually retrieve it quite often. So that's why that's where, I mean, because it comes with a cheaper cost. The cost of storage and access is cheap for both infrequent access and archive, even cheaper. That's why we charge a retrieval fee when you try to retrieve your data from these 2 storage classes. And if I'll just go to a previous slide to just show one more thing here, that you can, if you look at the diagram on this slide, you can actually move from a storage class to a different to another storage class. You can actually convert from a storage class to a different storage class. For example, you see the arrows, the triangle in between this diagram. The standard, you can move from standard to infrequent access, or to archive directly. You can move from infrequent to archive. So the conversion of storage classes is possible for your buckets and your objects. So as I said, I'll talk about some key scenarios. One of them being the cross-region replication. So when I say cross-region replication, you can actually, between your OSS buckets across region, you can have a data replication scenario built in, and it is a unidirectional and asynchronous replication, but mostly it is basically when you are trying to bring your data close to your end users. So these are the use cases where you would use, or you would try to create a backup and DR for your production buckets in your main region, and you want to create a backup bucket or a DR solution. Or it could be due to one-off data migration requirements, you want to move your data from one region to another region. So I mean, our customers use it for different use cases. The key point to note here is that as of now, the cross-region replication is not available for across all regions, but again, all these things are in roadmap. So as of now, I mean, if you are looking at China or US, these cross-region replication scenarios are possible. Cross-region replication is supported in those regions, but I think the more regions are being added as we are working on this. Maybe some this year, next year. So cross-region replication is actually a very cool and useful scenario in various requirements for our customers. Another cool feature I would talk is the image processing feature, and it is one of those value-added services what OSS provides. Like how do you process data? So I mean, when I say value-added services, image processing, audio video encoding, those kind of value-added services is some or static website hosting. These are the value-added services what OSS provides. So image processing is one of them. If you see the diagram, it is a simple flow. You upload your raw images to the bucket. The image processing feature actually processes that image, and you can then download the processed image. You can manage it from any device using simple RESTful interfaces. Possibilities are, I mean, there are many possibilities. You can convert the format of your image, you can resize your image, you can change the tone of your image, you can add watermarks, and there are other things which you can do, but key ones which I have listed on this slide. And also would like to mention the image types supported are, I think, JPEG, GIF, TIFF, and BMP, PNG. These are the image types supported by this feature as of now. Another cool feature is static website hosting or content hosting, and the reason it actually is kind of very appealing to our customers and is actually very helpful is your OSS bucket acts as a web server. So all your static content. So if you have only a static website, you can just get rid of your ECS instance and just host your content host your files on in your OSS bucket and use it as a web server. Or if your website consists of static and dynamic content, which is the case for I think almost every website, that you can host your images, your CSS in OSS buckets, and you can actually accelerate the content. You can put a CDN domain in front of your OSS bucket, and you can actually accelerate that content. So it acts as a web server, and it actually helps you accelerate all your content. Again, as I said, earlier, OSS is something which integrates with almost every product of Alibaba Cloud Suite. So CDN is one of those products, and it integrates very well. And the way this scenario works is you just put your buckets or your files, your static content in the OSS bucket. You enable your static website hosting feature in your bucket, and pretty much this is it. And you are provided a URL to access your content, but that URL is usually what is a system generated kind of URL, oss.aliyun.com or something like that. But you can bind your custom domain names, which is a kind of usually the last step of this scenario. You bind your custom domain name to access your static website or your static content. So yeah, moving on to the third key storage offering, file storage offering, which is the file storage, and we call it as NAS, network attached storage. So what is Alibaba Cloud NAS? So Alibaba Cloud NAS is basically a file storage in cloud, and it is a shared access. It provides a shared access to a global namespace, and it can be attached to different computing services within Alibaba Cloud. So when I say different computing services like ECS instances and HPC cluster, containers, you can attach your NAS for various use cases, to solve various business problems. You can use NAS to attach to any of those compute nodes, and it is something which can be shared across multiple nodes for that compute type. So for example, HPC cluster, you can attach a NAS file system to your HPC cluster, and all your compute nodes, login nodes across your HPC cluster will be able to see and store your data on that NAS. Key features of NAS. So if I've depicted them as 6 key features. One is scalability. It is scalable up to 10 petabytes of storage, and single file can be up to 32 terabytes on NAS. And cost effective. So as most of our our products are, it is very cost effective. You are billed only for what you use. So again, pay as you go model is possible, subscription model is possible. So of course, with subscription model, you get some savings, and that doesn't still stop you from going from subscription to pay as you go. So they are, those billing models and tweaking those billing models are possible. Performance, it provides maximum throughput of up to 20 Gbps, IOPS of more than 20K. Inclusiveness, when I say inclusiveness, it is basically the range or the coverage of NAS. So it supports both NFS and SMB protocols. And the way I see it is, and why I say the coverage or range is because with NFS you are able to use it on your Linux clients, and with SMB, because it supports SMB, you are able to use it on your Windows clients. And I see it as a competitive advantage for Alibaba Cloud also, because if I look at other competitors, either they would support NFS protocol or they would support the SMB protocol. So none of the cloud providers supports both. So that's our advantage. And as I said, coverage, in terms of coverage, you can attach it to multiple different type of compute nodes, ESS, ECS, OSS, HPC. You can integrate with almost every type of compute node or other Alibaba cloud products. It is secure. You can deploy your NAS inside a VPC, virtual private cloud, and you can integrate it with RAM policies. You can have security groups protecting them. You can have ACLs, end-to-end ACLs. It is durable, so SLA is 10 nines and availability is 99.9%. So yeah, these are the few key features of NAS, important features of NAS. So quickly moving on to the key scenarios. So one of the key scenarios, and we have deployed it across few customers recently. So I picked it from a recent case study what we have done. So NAS, when you create a HPC cluster or a supercomputing cluster on Alibaba Cloud, NAS is something which is a default storage type used for the HPC clusters, and you can pre-provision your NAS to attach to the HPC cluster, or you can actually, when you're creating a HPC cluster, it creates a NAS for you. So NAS is visible to, if you see in the diagram, NAS is visible to all your compute nodes, and you don't have to worry about NAS. What you are doing is via the login node of your HPC cluster, you are managing your data. And just to mention, NAS stays separate from your HPC cluster. Even if your cluster is down, your data is still secure on your NAS, which is a separate offering. Another key scenario we have picked from various customers is log analysis. You can dump your logs across multiple ECS, hundreds of ECS nodes into a NAS, and then use it for further analysis using a log analysis server or other solutions like Quick BI or DataV, those kind of solutions. Alibaba Cloud products, you can use those solutions to do your log analysis. So that's it. In terms of storage offerings, and so I think it's time for Q&A.
And this is the first question, Rohit.
Sure.
Can we change the billing model of a PAYG disk attached to a subscription type instance?
So I think I mentioned in one of my slides also, I briefly touched this topic. So when you create a cloud disk, you can attach, or you can, when you're creating the cloud disk as part of the ECS instance, the cloud disk will follow the billing model of your ECS instance. But when you're creating it separately, it is always created as pay-as-you-go. Now, when you are attaching this disk, a disk created later, when you attach to the ECS instance, if the ECS instance is already a subscription model, you cannot change your cloud disk to a subscription. But having said that, this particular feature or this particular capability is on the roadmap, so probably will be available maybe in a month's time.
Next question, can we create images of the ECS instance using the cloud disk snapshots?
Images of ECS instance are created two ways, directly via the ECS instance or via the disk snapshot. The disk snapshot is actually a possible way for creating images. The only thing to note here is you can create your disk images using your system disk snapshots, and then you attach your data disk snapshots to it, but you cannot create snapshots or images out of your local disk snapshots. So local disks are something like FML storage. For some ECS instance type, we provide that FML storage, but you cannot create snapshots or images out of that.
Next question is a bit about pricing, asking how does OSS pricing work?
In terms of OSS, there are basically three different billing items, I would say. The whole pricing consists of three billing items. One is the storage, definitely. The amount of data you are storing on OSS, and on that, just to mention, first 5 gig is free. Then the second billing item is the data transfer, what you are transferring to the internet, so which means your downloads, what you are downloading from OSS. And third is your API requests, your put, get, all kind of API requests. So these are three different billing items. And I won't comment on the cost as of now, because the cost varies by the region. So I would definitely encourage, go on to our website, check our OSS pricing, because it varies by the region.
Next question is, what are the ways to migrate data to and from Alibaba Cloud Storage?
So when it comes to migrating data to Alibaba Cloud or from Alibaba Cloud from our storage offerings, I think we have different, multiple offerings. As I said, and one of my initial slides was you can have something like a cloud storage gateway, which is a gateway for you to get into Alibaba Cloud, building a backup or DR. So that's a way you can bring your data onto Alibaba Cloud. There is something called Lightning Cube. So Lightning Cube is actually a device which is shipped to your data center. You can upload your terabytes, petabytes of data onto that device and ship it to our facilities. Then there are, in terms of if I look at various services like NAS, OSS, there are features like NAS import, OSS import utilities available to migrate data, to move data between OSS buckets or move between NAS to OSS. NAS sync, there is another key offering which, in terms of data inside your databases, is called data transport service, DTS. So you can move data from your databases, you can migrate between databases. So as I said, I mean, there are different offerings available in terms of migrating your data.
The next one is, can you mount OSS to a VM/ECS instance?
Yes, you can. There is a utility called OSSFS, which you can actually use to mount your OSS buckets as volumes.
Just asking if you can talk a bit more about Storage Gateway and how it works.
Right. So Storage Gateway, as I said earlier also, Storage Gateway is something you create your storage gateways to actually use Alibaba Cloud as an extension of your data center. So it is basically a hybrid cloud solution. You use it for either backups, DRs, or provide extra storage on cloud to your users, which are using, you're still using your IDC, your internal data center, but you use Alibaba Cloud as a backup kind of solution. So you can deploy Storage Gateway on-prem or on Alibaba Cloud. Both are possible, both ways are possible. And the two key gateways what we offer is a file gateway and a block gateway. So the way it works is you create a gateway, and you actually, because it uses OSS as the backend storage, so you create a gateway, you define your cache, and you can define your volumes. I mean, pretty much it is the summary of, I mean, I'm happy to answer the details if there are specific questions around that, but in general, this is kind of summary.
Okay. And then the last one, it's about block storage. So shared block storage and NAS, what are the key differences there?
So NAS is basically a file storage, which is, I mean, the way I would say the block storage and file storage actually differ completely in terms of how they are used. I mean, block storage is only meant for your attaching to your virtual servers like ECS instances. There's no other use case for block storage, but file storage can be attached to different computing nodes. There are more than one use case possible for your file storage.